Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you aren't. I am EDJ, and we are now continuing with more Napoleon related content. So I noticed that this, extra history basically made a Napoleon in Egypt series. It's about like 5 parts, so I'm about to watch them, and I guess just see extra histories telling of Napoleon's Egyptian exploits. As we know, the Egyptian campaign was a complete mess. It wasn't a success for Napoleon, but it was a success for history and science and archaeology, basically uncovering history through Egypt. So, in a weird way, it was a success on that front, but yeah, either way, we're about to cover this. I'm very much excited. And so yes, if you want to watch the original video, link down below. Without any further ado, let's watch Cosplaying Caesar, Napoleon in Egypt.
French flagship Orient, July 1st, 1798. Napoleon Bonaparte stands in front of his troops. He reveals that within hours, they will land in Egypt. Soon, he says, they will defeat the Mameluke sultans, then they will stay as an occupying force. The people amongst whom we're going to live are Muslims, he says, their first article of faith being this: there is but one God, and Muhammad is his prophet. Do not contradict them. He then reminds the army that their forerunners, the Roman legions, protected all religions. He insists that Egyptian Muslims be treated with the same respect the army has shown Christians and Jews, and that their rituals, mosques, and priests are not to be interfered with. And soldiers must accommodate Muslim ways, even though their treatment of women differs from Europe. Now, the first town we should come to...
So yes, Napoleon he really tried his hardest to win Egypt over, huh? He tried to play it off. I think he even funded, the construction of some mosque. Very much trying to show everyone, hey, look, we respect, your faith and your culture, and we're just kind of here more as liberators, if anything. Which didn't work. It completely backfired. I often call Egypt, prototype Spain, because it kind of reminds me a lot of the Spanish campaign, and just how completely that went south real quick. But you have to give it to Napoleon. He was very pragmatic in respecting faith and religion, to kind of try to get his own way in certain things. So, yeah, at least he put his best foot forward, so I can appreciate that of him.
Was built by Alexander, he says, suggesting that they'll emulate the great conqueror's success. But, and I hate to do this at the beginning of the series, spoiler alert, they're not gonna. Thanks so much to Factor for keeping us well fed on a historically built. The French invasion of Egypt in 1798 is sometimes treated like a sideshow in the Napoleonic Wars, just one of many rungs in a ladder that helped Napoleon to power while inventing Egyptology as a byproduct. But this view is vastly underselling it as an event, especially since it centers on how it impacted Europe rather than a wider picture of how it also affected North Africa and the Middle East. This was the first time since the Crusades that European armies had invaded the region, and this time they came armed with vastly superior weapons technology and an intention to bring Enlightenment ideals in order to liberate the people there. In other words, it's not only frequently cited as the first modern colonialist project, it will also set some patterns that will look all too familiar to the more modern Western interventions in the Middle East. During this invasion...
Yeah, I can go on about America as an American, but I'm not gonna. But, yeah. Man. Now that I'm thinking about it, Alexander the Great was, the last... He went and conquered the Middle East and, some of Asia. Julius Caesar... I'm trying to think, did anyone else ever, accomplish that? Napoleon tried doing this, and he failed. Julius Caesar was too busy in Rome, handling the Gauls, handling the Civil War. He was going to Parthia, but he never got the chance to, so... Yeah, I think Alexander the Great might have been, the only, guy to, go eastward and actually have overwhelming success. I don't know. I'm pretty sure there are others that I don't know about, just Yeah.
Napoleon would try to secure his hold by removing an unpopular regime, installing allies, appealing to religious commonalities, and exploiting ethnic, religious, and political division for his own benefit. Now, of course, I hear you asking, is this gonna get cringe? To which I will respond with a resounding, oh yeah. I'm talking like Napoleon wearing a turban, proclaiming himself a champion of Islam, and wanting to unite all Muslim nations under one banner level of cringe.
Napoleon. Yeah, Napoleon, you might be the master of Europe, but you're also kind of cringe. Like, oh man. That's funny.
We'll get there. But right now, it's May 1798, and troops are flooding into the French Mediterranean port of Toulon. There are 40,000 soldiers in the harbor, 27 fighting ships, 400 transports, and a dozen generals. Some of the most famous commanders in France are here. The swashbuckling Caribbean-raised Thomas Alexandre Dumas.
Yeah, Alexander Dumas, famous, you know, for being, you know, a black man. I think he was like, what, a general? Or he got really high. I think he was the son of a slave and an aristocrat or something, like from Haiti or something. I could be wrong. But yeah, and then he, you know, I think his son went on to write, or like someone went on to write The Three Musketeers, that famous novel that's been adapted a lot of times. So yeah, so there's cool. Apparently there were, you know, black people in the French army, which gives me hope, because as a dark-skinned man myself, I could have fit it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Some people think I'm black, and also some people think I'm like Indian. Like, I got a comment in the Napoleon in Egypt series by Epic History TV. Like, some dude was like, "Oh, when I saw the thumbnail, I thought you were gonna give me like tech advice or something like that," like some Indian thing. I don't know, I like deleted it and like blocked him from this channel, or muted him where I don't see his comments or whatever. But I'm like, guys, you're gonna make fun of me. At least get my ethnicity right. I'm Hispanic. Or American. I was born and raised here in America, so if you're gonna make fun of me, at least make fun of me for being an American, or, you know, Hispanic. That's all I'm saying.
The former nobleman and revolutionary Jacques-François Minois, who'd kept international security for France for half a decade. The hero of the revolution, Jean-Baptiste Kléber, known for stubbornly holding out against royalist forces. And none of them know where they're going. Some suppose it's an attempt to kick Admiral Nelson.
Oh no, not Nelson. Nelson's like a force to be reckoned with. Every time he appears in these Napoleonic series, he's always just kicking everyone's butt. He's really kind of just like, yeah, he's the most threatening force on the sea, basically. While Napoleon is the most threatening force on land, Nelson was the most threatening force on sea. So he's almost like a force of nature, just hunting the French, you know?
Nelson of Britain's Royal Navy out of the Mediterranean.
Learn French with great French TV.
Though others say they'll sail through Gibraltar and commence the long-rumored invasion of England. Though neither of those ideas really make sense. This force is too small to invade Britain, and their company includes a delegation of 151 savants. Mathematicians, chemists, linguists, and masters of natural science who seem to think they're about to study a mysterious new land. Nah, no matter. Wherever they go, they're gonna win. For Napoleon leads them. But just so we can all catch up, who exactly is this mathematician turned artillery officer? Napoleon Bonaparte had risen to prominence in France by playing a key role in the uprising of 1795, when a royalist force had tried to enter Paris during a constitutional convention and seize control of the government. Napoleon had saved the day, slaughtering the incoming royalists with cannons, while the politicians tried to figure out a government that would prove stable enough to endure, while also preserving the revolution's ideals. The resulting government was a 5-member committee called the Directory, and Bonaparte was their new favorite hero. As Napoleon's star ascended, he gained wealth, married a woman with powerful political connections, and gained command of the war in Italy. Within months, he'd broken the years-long stagnation there, soon secured an Austrian withdrawal, made war on the Pope, and smashed the Papal States. But by 1798, he was already thinking about what to do next. And honestly, so was the Directory, who was increasingly alarmed by this 28-year-old wonder kid. Napoleon was ruthless, competent, and ambitious, with an inherent knack of self-aggrandizing propaganda. He'd also further enriched himself looting the treasures of Italy, meaning that the Caesar comparisons were getting real uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's so much Caesar comparisons with Napoleon. And as we've been watching the Caesar series by Kings and Generals and Historia Civilis, which are on this channel every Wednesday and Friday, and Thursday. But the point is, you know, just selling myself in case you don't know. But yeah, so Napoleon, the thing is just how threatening he is, because he also, like, during, I think, the war of the First Coalition, basically made a treaty with Austria for peace, but he did it without the input of the government. So politically adept, militarily gifted, you know, ambitious, basically also has the love of the people on his side. Are you kidding me? Like, of course he's the biggest threat to the Directory, you know? It's like, and they were right to fear him, because Napoleon takes power at the end.
Now, they wanted him to invade England, you know, getting him as far from the capital as possible, but Napoleon was dubious whether that would work. Instead, he proposed to capture Egypt. See, Egypt presented an indirect path toward attacking Britain, while British ship traffic to India went around Africa. Message traffic went overland across Egypt to the Red Sea. And with that route conquered, French forces could link up with France's ally the Tipu Sultan, who was at this time bedeviling the East India Company forces on the subcontinent. Napoleon also argued that sugar production in the region could take the place of France's loss of Haiti, which you can watch our series on here, and it could open new avenues of trade. Besides, they could tear down the Mameluke sultans, who had oppressed French traders living in the area, and bring the liberty of the revolution to this backwards land. But honestly, there was also a more romantic reason. Enlightenment thinkers were students of the classical world, raised on the stories of the Greeks, Romans, and pharaohs. As the most ancient of the classical empires, Egypt was considered the cradle of civilization.
Yeah, I think Egypt was like, what, the first really big important empire or superpower of the world? I mean, no, there were other empires before Egypt, like the Akan Empire, but like Egypt was like the first powerhouse, you know, so yeah, there's just so much to Egypt, like, you know, there was a saying that, like, at the time of Julius Caesar, you know, they were closer to our age than they were to the age when the pyramids were built, or something like that. So, super ancient civilization with so much going on, from, you know, ancient Egypt, you know, the conquest of Alexander the Great and the wars of the Diadochi after, Rome and all the crap that happened there with the late Republic and its conquest. There's just so much that has happened in Egypt, and now Napoleon going there, it's like, yeah, you know, there's just so much going on there. It's like historically rich, you know?
Yet it was also still mysterious, remaining largely unknown in Europe with an ancient language that hadn't been deciphered. I mean, what treasures might lie there? What discoveries? And in conquering it, Napoleon would be reenacting the campaigns of Alexander the Great, of Caesar, even of the great French Crusader kings of the medieval era. Look, I know how silly that all sounds.
That Napoleon is secretly just wanting to cosplay as his heroes. That's the real reason he went to Egypt. That's my headcanon. Napoleon just wanted to cosplay a little. Oh man, that's funny.
But it's important to note that Napoleon and his officers were dead serious about this. In fact, once they left port, and he informed them of their destination, the shipboard philosophical debate group he formed to pass the time argued at length about who they resembled the most. Were they more like the Roman legions, or Alexander's Macedonians? Ooh, how about Caesar or Octavian?
Really? Is that true? I don't know, but that'd be hilarious. It's like, who are we more like, the Romans or? Oh my gosh, who are you? I feel like you're an Octavian for sure. Like, oh my gosh. That's hilarious. They're just like, they're having conversations I have on this channel, just wanting to roleplay these people.
And when they arrived, would each become a Mark Antony with a beautiful Cleopatra-like Egyptian lover?
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. Now, all self-aggrandizing fanfic aside, these sessions actually did help cut the tension, because this voyage was a dangerous one. Nelson's fleet was hunting for them, and the French only slipped by through sailing at night. Their lights doused, and crew told to keep quiet. First, they made the island of Malta, gateway to Egypt, and still garrisoned by the medieval Knights of Malta. Napoleon took it with minimal resistance. Since the revolution, religious contributions to the order had dried up, and half of the knights were Frenchmen who were unwilling to fight their countrymen. The Grand Master was bought off, and Napoleon stopped long enough to recruit Arabic speakers to serve as translators and intermediaries. Then, July 1st, they arrived off Alexandria, and Napoleon gave the address we quoted at the top of this episode, instructing his men how to behave amongst the Egyptians and reminding them that they're entering a city founded by Alexander. They attacked the walls that night, following a short negotiation. In a paltry defense, 500 Mameluke soldiers with century-old muskets tried to guard a medieval wall against 4,000 of Napoleon's modern infantry. The Mameluke fire was so ineffective that when General Kleber was shot in the forehead, the bullet failed to kill him. The Mameluke.
What the heck? Yo, gonna need some upgrades there, huh? But yeah, the Mamelukes get completely, like, to put it nicely, curb stomped by Napoleon. And yeah, the real problem mainly to Napoleon was him being stranded there, the plague, and, you know, British intervention for the most part. Yeah, the Mamelukes were not a threat to Napoleon for the most part.
Fled, and as light dawned, the French found themselves in possession of the great city of Alexandria. Scholars and officers flooded in to see the jewel of the Ptolemies, to witness the abode of Cleopatra, full of ancient splendor, and wait, what the f*** is this? This is Alexandria? Are you sure? Where?
Reality is often more disappointing, huh? Yeah, they expected it to be exactly the same as it was like 2,000 years ago, or like 3,000, but yeah, at this point it's kind of lost its splendor, unfortunately. You know, time happens, right?
Where are the palaces and temples and gold and incense and crap? Okay, there's Pompey's column there. Oh, and an obelisk to Cleopatra, and wait, is that it? Hold on, are those guys using a broken obelisk as a bench? Is this hieroglyphic slab holding up a doorway? Why is everyone in rags? What happened to this place? The French were absolutely shocked. All they could fathom was that the Egyptians had forgotten their heritage, lost their status as the heirs of the classical legacy, and didn't take care of it. A diagnosis Enlightenment thinkers also ascribed to the Greeks, by the way. But the truth was, Alexandria was just old. Lots had happened in the 2,000 years since Cleopatra and Antony, after all. The course of the Nile changed, devaluing the city as a center of trade. Monuments had suffered the ravages of time, much like Roman buildings in France and Britain. Stones got reused in construction. The whole place had never recovered from its depopulation during the Black Death. And Egypt, semi-autonomous under the Mamelukes, was one of the poorest parts of the Ottoman Empire. Napoleon had just arrived, and already Egypt was not what he expected. But surely things would be different in Cairo.
These guys were being all like Egyptian weebs, and then like they expected everything to be like, yeah. This is probably me being a fanboy of like Rome, going there, and then it's just like, oh, you know, obviously things aren't the same because time happens, and yeah, they must have been so heartbroken, right?
French ships began to unload the instruments of war. Cannons, gunpowder, an Arabic printing press to distribute propaganda, and a mobile chemistry lab for the savants to explore and categorize this new land. Everything they would need for a successful campaign. Except for the one thing they didn't bring. Canteens. Which turns out would be pretty important where they're going. I mean, it's not like they were able to order a bunch of nourishing beverages or tasty meals and then have them shipped directly to their location. That could never happen. Back then, I mean. Thanks, Factor. Now, y'all know how much I love to cook, but I really only have time.
Yeah, so literally, like, the last, like, few minutes of this video was an ad, but, Yeah, the thing is, yeah, it gets really hot in Egypt, and they march through the desert. You guys can hear background. For the last few Napoleon videos, you could kind of hear there's a bit of a background noise when I speak. I mean, I've done a lot to modify it so it's not completely distracting because I have my air conditioning on. You know, I live in California, and it gets hot here, guys. It's usually always hot here. And, you know, it got to the point now it's like July, and it's like, yeah, I'm not recording. Because if I try to, like, do, like, 5 recordings right now without my air conditioning on, I'm gonna fall from the heat. So, I leave it on now. And, but that's just here in California. There are hotter places in the US. Like, I remember when we were going to Vegas, we went to Arizona, and it was hotter there. Like, it was like, oh my god, it was like 100 and something, and and this was here in, like, America. I can't imagine the Middle East. Like, that's insane. Like I die, like, legitimately, though. And they're marching with their French uniforms. It's insane. Like, yeah. Probably should have packed as much water as humanly possible. If that's even possible, but I don't know. Either way, we're gonna jump forward now to part 2. I'll see you all then. Bye, everyone.